the morning.
Good morning. It is, I think it's Wednesday. Wait, is it Thursday? Today's, shoot, I should have looked that up before I started. We're gonna go with Thursday. Today's Thursday, why not? I'll correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong. Happy Thursday. It's Friday by the time you're seeing this. And today I thought I would talk a little bit about why the heck I'm here, what I'm doing, who am I? Because there are a number of you that joined into the party after the daily vlogging was over, and you're like, oh, I thought I was gonna get 1 or 2 videos a week out of this guy. Suddenly he's making a video every day. Suddenly he's not. Suddenly he is again. What the heck is going on? That's what I'm here to talk about today. So if you're interested to know who I am, how I got to Paris, what the heck's going on, or you already know the story, it's coming. But there's always an extra little nugget that happens when I do these little recap vlogs, including today, another chance to win my book, which goes into even greater detail about how I got to Paris, why I'm here, why it's possible that I might get kicked out someday, all that good stuff. It's in that book. And it's also going to be somewhat in this vlog. So this vlog's just an intro vlog to the vlog, kind of. But there'll be something extra in it, including shots of the Louvre. Back when I was a boy, a young lad, a child, I had a thing. I don't know what it was, but I always had this kind of tickle, this urge to move to France. And it was I don't know how to describe it, but I knew ever since I was probably 6 or 7 that I wanted to end up here somehow. I don't know if I knew I wanted to live here, but I knew I wanted to come here. And so I wanted to learn to speak French, which meant I was kind of a little rebel and refused to learn to speak Spanish, which I regret now, even though they tried to force us. But yeah, I focused on the French side of things and made it over here. Lived in Nice first, taught English for a year. It wasn't my thing. I was like, man, I'm glad I got my French together, but maybe this wasn't for me in the end. And then I wandered over to Paris just for a week on my way out, and I was like, holy crap, this is what I wanted. This is the city I wanted to be in. This is France, quote unquote. No French person would agree with that, but you know what I mean. I was just like, Paris is what I was always dreaming of. This is what I was craving. And so I made it a goal to come back because I couldn't stay because visas, because I'm American, because they kick us out. They just love kicking us out. So I did. I came back. I don't know if this is the story you wanted specifically, but we'll cover a couple bases today. But I managed to come back and teach English. It took me a while though, because I ended up volunteering on a hospital ship in West Africa for about 3 years. And it was during that time period that I came up here to work for the international office on an English teaching visa, same visa I got before, with a program called TEPIF, if you're wondering, which is a great program if you're young and you don't need to make much money and you just want to live in France. If you're an old geezer like me, not so great anymore, doesn't make me much money, but I had my support from Mercy Ship still, and I came back to Paris, and I loved it, and I felt at home, which is a feeling that a lot of Americans have. I think we all, who was it? Was it Steinbeck? Somebody said all good Americans go to Paris when they die. I just thought I'd skip the queue and get here a little early. Of course, in tandem with all this, I was writing fantasy and science fiction like crazy. And by like crazy, I mean 1 book a year. So maybe not that crazy, but made it a goal to write 1 book every year, publish it, get it out the door, have it done, just because I figured once I published 1 million words, I might actually be okay at writing. So that was the goal. And I kept doing that. I kind of started at the same time I joined Mercy Ships. So after moving to Nice and before moving to Paris. And I did, I stuck with it. I wrote a book every year, but they sucked at the beginning. They're okay now, hopefully, and they're only gonna keep getting better. But when I got to Paris the first time and had to leave and went back to the Congo to continue working with Mercy Ships, again, it was a visa thing. I couldn't stay. I couldn't figure out how to stay. I couldn't make it work. I didn't know what I was doing yet. I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing, but I swore I would come back. Easy promise to make, really not an easy one to keep. But to be honest, I'm kind of all about those hard promises. I make them to myself all the time. And the dreams that the books came out of are dreams to make movies. I've always had, kind of a cinematic mindset towards the stories I want to tell in that science fiction fantasy universe. And so I want to get there. But when I was moving to West Africa and when I was jumping onto a boat that, I was like, well, I could get malaria. Maybe I'll never come back, who knows? It wasn't, that crazy. We had moments, but I figured, hey, why not start putting in the effort now? Let's start working on this. Let's start getting the stories out. Let's start honing those skills because it's not going to come to me. I got to figure out how to get to it. And so that's what I was trying to do. Paris just happens to be a place that inspires me, like it inspires a lot of people. And I did have to make it back, which wasn't terribly easy. Turns out that, it turns out that having an American passport only gets you so far. Well, right now it feels like it gets you even less far, but when you want to live in a place like Europe, which is a large place filled with lots of countries with their own rules, specifically France, you want to live here, yeah, not necessarily the easiest thing to accomplish. I did it twice through English teaching visas, but they were limited and they didn't let me stay. I usually suggest to people the best way if you don't really know what to do is probably to get a student visa, because if you go through the education system here, especially if you end up getting your master's, they love that. They absolutely love seeing that you're assimilating into the culture, and of course being educated by them pulls a trick there and it gives you an extra year after. But I wasn't really looking for a master's. I could have done that. I didn't really know how good of a route that was back when I was really looking to get back here. And then I stumbled on a talent visa totally by accident and ended up coming here, on a visa that I didn't even actually know what it was till I received it, and I still didn't know what it was good for a year after I got to Paris. I'm not even kidding. I didn't know what the visa was good for. I applied for one visa, they gave me another one. I've told that story a bunch of times. It's interesting. I don't know how interesting it really is, but it's a good story, and it's in that book that I was telling you about. And speaking of book, I'm just going to throw the trivia in right here so the people that skip to the end looking for it are going to miss it. My analogy for this is The Sea of the Unknown, which is the title of the book, and that comes from taking my goal board that I made when I was living here and turning it into a map of the unknown, like setting sail off into the unknown, not knowing where you're going to end up or how you're going to get there. When did I make that, and when did I post it on Instagram? You can either give us the exact date that I posted it on Instagram for the first time, or the photo of the day. Get that correct, and you win yourself a book. It all ties in really well. But I did come here, and I was legally allowed to work. I just felt like at some point they were going to catch me and I was going to get kicked out of the country, because nobody told me I was really allowed to work, or how that was allowed to go, or in what capacity, or for how long. I really just was flying blind and hoping that I wasn't breaking the law. That's actually how I ended up working up here. I came here thinking that I was going to be teaching English. Figured I had that job locked down, and then I got it, and then they didn't have work for me for 6 months. So that's how I ended up being a bike tour guide, and that's how I ended up getting hooked up with the Peloton, which is a very lucky thing to have happen indeed. Thankfully, about the time that everything fell apart for me was the time that I managed to get to France. Like, getting back to Paris was basically my escape from impending doom. And I did still end up going bankrupt while I was here, from like the tech venture that I launched myself into and all the risks I was taking, none of which were like things that I regret. I think I'm actually really proud of a lot of the experiences that I've had. It just led me to a place where things got really tough for a while. But at about that time, when things were finally kind of settling, the dust was settling, I guess you could say, with the chaos of my former life, my new life here was starting to take root. And that's what my old vlog, like if you go back and you watch my vlog a day, it started a few months before I came to Paris, before I even knew that I was going to be coming to Paris. So actually even longer, it was like 6 months before I came to Paris, but like 3 months before I even had Paris back on my radar as a possibility. And you kind of see the beginnings of the downfall, even though I thought what I was going to be doing was picking up. I figured one of these things was going to take off. Things are going to go great. My life is going to be a wild success. And no, in the end, it was a lot of failures, like lots of face planting. That kind of brings you up to speed. I do have long-term plans. We've been talking about it a lot in the past, and that's what our podcast is about with my stories. You know, I haven't given up on the sci-fi fantasy, and that's what I plan to spend my breaks on when I'm not daily vlogging. I'll be writing. I've been getting myself pumped up for it and doing a little bit of side work, doing some research, trying to make it, you know, the dream. So I'm working on it. And I still want to make those movies that I wanted to make when I was a kid. And I still want to write more books. And I still want to make YouTube videos. I love making vlogs. And I'm just trying to figure out what it all looks like. I think so much is changing around us right now. So much of what I used to do, you know, as a job through my vlog has changed. There's just so many elements, you know, that I'm getting to figure out right now. That's kind of what we're in for. In the midst of this pandemic and everything else that's going on, is rediscovering and redefining how it is that we move forward, because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's a big part of the story too, is my patrons, because throughout all the vlogging, I was holding down like, 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Random stuff, and I got to do a lot of really fun things, and I have had a lot of really interesting jobs. I have translated and done some voice acting for the National Science Department here. I was teaching English at an engineering school. I was a bike tour guide, obviously. I ran a Kickstarter course for a startup in Boston from afar, which was also really cool. So I've had a lot of really interesting opportunities throughout all of this, but what changed everything more than anything were my patrons. Because without my patrons, I would be nobody. I would be, well, at least I wouldn't be nobody, but I wouldn't be getting anywhere very fast right now. And they are the reason that I was able to step out of doing all the random side jobs to survive and make my way into doing this full time, which has been a huge gift and something that I appreciate immensely. Of course, speaking of my patrons, today's randomized patron producer is Randy Ung and family, new to the game. Thank you guys so much for jumping on a Patreon and for coming to my Kickstarter. The launch of my book was really, really exciting, so you tie in very well to today's story as a whole. Really glad to have you on board, and for anybody out there that's thinking about becoming a patron, it makes a huge difference and is definitely a part of being able to grow, do new things, try new things, take some risks, and yeah, it makes a huge difference both to the channel and to all the future stuff that maybe you don't see quite yet, but I think and I hope that I'll make you proud of and proud with someday. And so that's kind of what brings us to today, is I've, been jumping through a lot of hoops to get to a place where now I'm kind of established and my life is actually looking closer and closer to something that I always dreamed it might. And while there are elements that are missing, and while things are kind of crazy around the globe, or very crazy depending on where we're at, while there's a lot of uncertainty, and while I might be experiencing a higher baseline of stress than I would otherwise like to be, at the same time, I'm very, very lucky, and I'm taking a lot of time to stop and think and just be grateful for what it is that I've been given and what it is that I have. And that kind of brings you up to speed on kind of where the vlog is at. It's transitioned from being a story of survival, like, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna stay in France? Am I gonna, have enough to eat? To now, like, there are big questions like, will I be allowed to stay in France? I gotta renew my visa in the next coming 6 months or so. Will I be able to get dual citizenship? Will I be able to get my driver's license? There are a lot of things that still have yet to happen. And a lot of big changes and a lot of exciting things that are yet to come. So I can't wait to share those with you. But it's also good to take a moment to look back and see where we've come from, because that kind of perspective is also helpful, for me especially, in the midst of a lot of chaotic uncertainty. It's nice to be like, you know what? I made it this far. I'm just gonna chill and go have a beer with a friend. And that'll be okay. Anyways, I hope that this has been illuminating for those of you that maybe didn't know some of that backstory and was kind of a fun jog down memory lane for those of you that did. I hope that you're having a wonderful day wherever it is you are today. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning for something. I don't even know. I don't think my brain makes memories the same way anymore since I started vlogging daily. We can talk about that sometime too. There's an actual physiological cost and change to doing this. But it's worth it. I enjoy it. I think it's worth it. I guess I don't know anymore. Maybe I don't remember. Who knows? See you tomorrow.